Welcome back to the Nicola podcast. We are officially 1 week out from Christmas. Ladies, if you are listening to this today, the day that it's published, then we are 7 days away from the big day. So it felt appropriate for this penultimate episode of the year to just go through a couple of quick tips, hacks, reminders of how to take care of yourself, how to prioritise yourself in the busiest 2 weeks of the year. We know that over the next 2 weeks, it's kind of that period, isn't it, when we want all of the things. We want to be present. We want to enjoy the days where we're way more relaxed. We want to go with the flow. We want to eat, drink and be merry, but then we also don't want our health goals to get away from us. We just want to do all of the things. And we want to know how that's possible. So I just want to share with you a few of the things that I will do and that I've seen work with clients and just help you create those healthy mental boundaries, because we know as women, like how we feel in our bodies as women, it just massively impacts the way we experience life. It just does. And this was actually a real penny drop moment for me when I first had this realization. And I thought, God, how we feel in our physical body genuinely impacts the way we experience the rest of the day, the week, the month, life. And think about it. Like if you take yourself back to a time when you felt really good, or maybe that's now, which is amazing, and you're feeling really good in yourself and you've got good energy, you feel confident in your clothes, your body feels fit, strong and healthy, like you will just be going into this time of year with a spring in your step. Your eyes will be more wide open to all of the little things, and you're just so much more able to take it in and actually enjoy it. Versus we think of a time when we just did not feel good in our bodies. And again, maybe this is you right now listening, maybe you've struggled with this for a while. It really impacts, the level of confidence and what we choose to put on when we open the wardrobe, and whether we hold our head up and whether we want to get at the front of the queue and whether we want to be the first on the dance floor and whether we want to be seen and heard, and it matters. And so over these next 2 weeks, these couple of reminders, really, it's about creating that feeling of feeling good, because it is a feeling, and you might not be at your ideal dress size, you might not be at your ideal weight, and that's okay. I would also say the word ideal in inverted commas, because again, it almost is like an ideology, and it's very rarely, in my experience, the pinnacle. But we all have that ballpark that we're striving towards. And if you're not there yet, we can't let that stop us having an amazing end to this year. And ladies, that is a choice. And I mean, even if every single week up until this point for you feels as though it's taking you slightly off course, then allow this podcast to be just that line in the sand where you decide to, okay, I'm going to reroute and I'm going to make the last 2 weeks of 2025 as good as I possibly can. Because we can choose to thrive, but it's a decision, and it's a mindset, and it's a feeling, and it's a state of being. It's a state of being that we evoke. So without further ado, let's get into it. First big one that I know that I struggle with, and so I'm talking about this because I'm thinking, if I struggle with it, surely there will be other women who will relate to this. And that is that I actually thrive better with a routine. So we talk about we can't wait to finish work, we can't wait to down tools, we can't wait for the kids to be off, and I genuinely cannot wait for those things. But I know my best self, and I still need to have a little bit of a routine in order for me to just, I suppose, stay grounded mentally and physically. And I've spoken about this on the podcast before when it's, I think it was the summertime, and like I was getting to the weekend and Saturday morning, which was like a lot more laid back and chill, and the hubby goes out for his PT, and I would just find myself feeling all out of sorts. And I do think it has got something to do with hormones. I just do. We know that when we get into our 40s, our cortisol of a morning, which naturally rises for everyone, but more so in our 40s, we really feel it. And so that feeling of a morning when you feel just a little bit more, whether it's like short-tempered or anxious, or it shows up differently for everybody. And it's not just if you're in your 40s, but I've just noticed it is heightened in these last couple of years, definitely, in the last 12 months for sure. And so I like to have micro routines that just keep me feeling on course, and not so much as though I'm winging it. And it's the micro habits that I know keep me feeling at my best. And it is very, very simple micro habits, ladies. So over the course of Christmas, I will still try to wake at a very similar hour each day. Now, some of you might be looking forward to that lie-in, and I am the biggest advocate for sleep. So if you usually get up at 5:30am, 6:30am, and you can push that till 7:30, then absolutely do it. But I'm talking about going from a 6:30am wake up to, lying in bed till 9, 10 o'clock, which, I mean, is probably very unlikely if you've got young children. But that in itself can cause this feeling of almost like jet lag over Christmas. Where we find ourselves, okay, so then we're staying up really late and we're getting up really late, and it's nice to have that bit of a buffer. But for me, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of days when we will definitely have a lazy morning, but generally speaking, I will still try to wake up at a very similar time each day. And yes, it will encourage me to go to bed at a similar time, but I just know myself, and I work best when I operate best when I'm just in that routine, like sleep wake cycle. And again, you've got to think about this. It's not an OCD. It's not, it's not trying to micromanage. It's a hormonal circadian rhythm that our body experiences. So your body naturally decides when it's time to wind down overnight, and it naturally decides when to wake up in an ideal scenario. Now, when we throw alcohol and high sugar foods and all the other goodies on top of that, yes, it massively disrupts. So the circadian rhythm is off, and sometimes our sleep-wake schedule takes a hit, and that's okay. But if you experience this over Christmas and you do feel as though you've got that kind of like jet lag feeling, that's the only way I can describe it. Give yourself an early night and an early rise, and it might feel uncomfortable to do the early rise and to get up at 7 and it's still very dark outside and it feels unnecessary because we've got this opportunity to lie in bed. But trust me, the way I talk all of the time about the importance of creating our own energy, this sleep-wake cycle is actually one of those, that's one of those ways in which we can create and boost our own energy. So I will absolutely still get up and go for my early morning workouts over Christmas where time allows. It won't come as a priority for me over Christmas. It won't come as a priority in front of family time. However, if it just means that I've got to reduce the hour in the gym to 30 minutes in the gym, then I'm good with that. I'm very much of the mindset that something is better than nothing. So that is number one, micro routines. For you, it might also be, that we just make sure that we start our day with the water. We don't have any caffeine after 12. The simple non-negotiables that we plug in Monday to Friday, we follow them through Monday to Friday. Weekend always feels a little skewed, and that's where we get thrown. And I want you to think about this. The Christmas holidays is like one big extended weekend, is how we want to think about it. So if the weekend is usually your sticking point and it's where you start to feel a little skewed, and then Monday brings you back on course, and then by Friday you're kind of going off course again, Christmas is essentially like a 2-week weekend. And so knowing those non-negotiables that normally hold you up, and this is not about maintaining body weight, or it's not related to weight on the scales. This is in relation to what are the things that I do that keep me at my best. And again, if you are in your 40s or even late 30s and you know that like hormones are already going crazy, I think remembering like food, alcohol, essentially what we put into our body creates the response and impacts our hormone regulation. And so when we are drinking alcohol and we're eating the high sugar food, and our days become very beige or brown for the chocolate, then it really impacts energy, mood, brain fog. If you are a woman who struggles from time to time with brain fog, which I definitely do, and I notice this, when the diet takes a hit, the brain fog rears its head. Also, that sleep-wake cycle also makes an impact. One of the things that I will do over the Christmas period, and again, I don't want to come across on this podcast as though I'm encouraging anyone to miss out on the festivities and the opportunity to go with the flow and relax, but I want to pull it back to that first point that I made, is that we will experience Christmas in such a more positive way if we feel good in ourselves. Like, it's fact. If we feel good in ourselves, then the way that we experience Christmas, the joy that we get out of the days, the little things, like we get the opportunity to exaggerate that if we feel good in ourselves. So all of these, it's not to be a stick in the mud, but it's a reminder of, okay, the alcohol and the crazy food and all of that is great, but when it's impacting the way that you feel in yourself, then it's impacting the way that you experience Christmas. And for some of you, you'll be in the same camp as me, and it's just not worth the trade-off. So if you get to those days where you are feeling a little foggy, a little overwhelmed, it's catching up on you a bit, I would just implement a reset day. And a reset day, if you're in my client base, you'll know this. A reset day is just a day of normality. So you get out and you get your general movement, and maybe you exceed the 10,000 steps. If you know that you've been overindulging, the easiest way to offset that is just general movement. It's not going to the gym and smashing cardio or doing anything wild, just general movement. You're going to drink the water, you're going to have an alcohol-free day. Very common thing over Christmas that I know to be true, because this was me years ago, is that we get into the habit of drinking alcohol almost every single day. Because don't forget, we've got that weekend mentality for an entire 2 weeks. And it's like when we go on holiday, isn't it? Like in the summer or whenever we choose to go, we'll have a glass of wine most days. I mean, I won't anymore, but definitely my husband will have, a beer or something every single day on holiday, because at some point in the day, it's, we've got that mentality, haven't we? We're on holiday. And of course we have that at Christmas. But if you're drinking alcohol every single day, whether it's just, a little glass with the Christmas movie, which again, like we will definitely be having like festive nights every single night, I'm sure. But then we wonder, don't we, when we get to January, why is it so hard to get back on course? Why do and this is not about our scale weight has crept up. This is like in our physical body. I just feel as though I'm completely out of sort. So a reset day is where you will just abstain from alcohol, you'll eat well, you'll maybe have that cut-off point in the evening, which I've spoken about before, that 8 o'clock maybe, no food after 8, which again at Christmas feels very alien because we love a little grazing board. When we put the Christmas movie on, like it almost feels as though we've stacked these habits, haven't we? Like it's culturally habit stacking. You have a Christmas movie, you've got to have the snacks. But like this one day, just plugged in, maybe a couple of them over the Christmas period, whereby you just have a day of normality. Getting in bed at a decent hour, no alcohol, plenty of water, plenty of good movement, good food. Honestly, you'll wake up the next day and it'll be as though you've reset. This is why we call it a 24-hour reset inside of the NickFit community, because it's exactly what your body needs to just get back on course. Otherwise, it's constantly playing catch up. And if you keep fueling that fire, then it's getting further and further behind with this trying to catch up. So alcohol-free days, I would definitely recommend. Big one for me is to just keep on training. So we know it's going to be more indulgent. Like one of my favourite things at Christmas is all of the food and the good stuff. But we've got to have a catalyst to offset all of the indulgence. And again, not necessarily just about weight on scales, although, take it back to that first point. We know how we feel in ourselves when we step on the scales and we've gained like half a stone in weight, or even more than that in some cases over Christmas. We know how that makes us feel. Now, I've got to say this, it is absolutely normal for your body to fluctuate. Of course it is. It's normal to gain a couple of pounds over Christmas. Like, let's be very honest, we're eating and drinking differently. We're going to gain a couple of pounds. Please don't fear the scale number jumping around. But when we eat more than we normally would, we drink more than we normally would, and we move less at the same time, that's when we can get ourselves a little stuck and we find ourselves on the back foot. So keep on training, because this will work as a catalyst. If you've not yet downloaded the festive Thriving Through December festive guide that's inside of the Thriving Women community, it's also linked below in the podcast show notes. Head over there, and I've designed a thriving guide, and there's 3 workouts that can be done from home, that can be done in the gym, 20-30 minutes. You will need a set of dumbbells. I think I've got 1 body weight workout on there. And yes, it is going to feel challenging. It is 100% going to feel challenging to keep on moving if you've overindulged and you've drank alcohol, because very quickly can we turn into the Tin Man over Christmas, and everything just feels so much harder. But just have the mindset that something is better than nothing and keep on moving. The self-talk. So I want to emphasise this point, ladies, because there might be moments over the next couple of weeks when you struggle. There might not be, but to those women who will experience a day when you feel out of sorts, maybe you're around certain people who just don't bring out the best in you, but you've got to be around each other because it's Christmas, or you're feeling a bit overwhelmed or overindulged or just overstimulated because everybody's off and the house is chaos. In my experience, these moments when we don't feel at our best, for some wild reason, feel like the opportunity that we would speak poorly to ourselves. And I want to remind you of this. Speaking to yourself positively, giving yourself grace. The times when you are struggling most is the time that you need to speak to yourself with grace. And I want you to think about that on the bigger picture. Okay, so maybe right now you are not where you want to be and you know 2026 is going to be your year and you are so determined that on the other side of Christmas, I'm going for it and it's really going to be my year. Then let me remind you of this. The point at which you're at now is the point that you need to speak to yourself with more grace than any other time. Not the point that not the point when we start to gain momentum and the weight starts to drop and the fitness levels have increased and you're doing the thing and it's like, okay, I can give myself permission to speak kindly to myself now because I'm doing it. This is the point that you're at now. Or on those days over Christmas when you might just not feel yourself, these are the moments, ladies, when we are struggling most is the moment that we most need to speak to ourselves with grace, positively, taking ourselves back to gratitude. All of the self-talk that you've heard me talk about in previous podcast episodes, it's when we're struggling most is when we really need to consciously make sure that we are acting on that self-talk. So that's a big one going into these next couple of days, especially if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, because it's so easy. I dropped off some toys for a toy appeal the other day and hormone Lanny, as I walked away from dropping them off, I just started tears just coming. I wasn't, the difference between when you're crying and the difference between when your eyes just start streaming. So it was the eyes just started going. And I just got in the car and I thought, God, it's so easy to focus on all of the things that I've not done. And I am dropping toys off for children and parents who will be grateful of anything this Christmas. And it's so easy to lose that perspective. And it's wildly and it's so hard to be appreciative of what we've got. But again, that is a state. To be in a state of appreciation and grace and gratitude for what we have, who we are, maybe what you've struggled with, what you've been through. Yes, the tried attempts that may have failed. If you know that you tried and you are trying, give yourself grace for that. So the self-talk is a big one. And enjoy the rest. Critical part. I know I'm talking about get up early, get the training, and maybe that's how this is being interpreted. But I also want you to really enjoy the rest, ladies, because when we speak about wanting to be on the ground running in January and we want to set these big goals and we want it to be our year and it's going to be the year that we get in the shape of our lives and we're going to improve our health and we're going to eliminate the emotional eating and all of the things that we've been struggling with and we're going to put the work in, then mentally, I feel that we do need to take the break over Christmas to allow ourselves to be ready for that. It's not natural for us to be in go mode 52 weeks of the year. My clients will tell you this. I am massive on taking the downtime. If you're going on holiday and you're one of my clients, the goal on holiday, and a lot of clients will come to me and they'll say, Nick, can you just give me a few tips for how to stay on course over Christmas? And I am absolutely down for that. Not over Christmas, on holiday, sorry. And I'll give you all of the little ways in which we can create a bit more balance. But ultimately, I want you to enjoy that downtime because mentally we've got to give ourselves a break from constantly feeling as though we're scrutinising our every move and we're overthinking our every move. And we've just got to enjoy. We've got to enjoy the rest. We've got to enjoy the screen-free time, maybe time out of our inbox, maybe time out of answering to everyone, and if you are heading up a team at work, being answerable to everybody, and just enjoy the rest. And the flip side of that, when I'm talking about making sure we keep up our workouts and all of the other stuff. The flip side of that is I want you to look at that as your self-care. So they're getting up nice and early and they're drinking the plenty of water and they're getting out for the walk and going for the exercise. It's not punishment for what you ate the night before. It really isn't. And that mentality, ladies, if that is part of your subconscious mentality because you've always trained to burn calories, eliminate the food from the night before, then I would love you to reach out, because that mindset will continue to keep you stuck. And so over Christmas, the things that we're talking about here, about plugging in, this is the self-care. This is the self-care, and I want you to make the time to really prioritise it where you can. And then around that, we're going to enjoy the rest. We're going to enjoy the family time, and we're going to enjoy making memories. And the rest is so important because it plays into reducing our stress levels. And I will end on this note because I shared this with a couple of clients, I think in the last couple of weeks, is we talk about the external environment that we create for ourselves, whether it be around our home or the environment on social media that we create for ourselves. And we forget about this internal environment, which is our body. But when you put food or drink or anything into your internal environment, the state of your internal environment will massively impact what happens with that food and with that drink. And what I mean by that is, okay, if you're in a state of stress, you put food into your body. Likelihood is, body hasn't got time to properly manage this. Digestive system is off. You might find that when you are stressed or anxious, you struggle with like constipation, or you struggle to go to the loo, or you struggle to settle overnight, or you've constantly got this bloat every time that you eat. It's because you're just not running optimally. Your body's not at ease. It's something that I always talk about with clients, is a state of being at ease. And when we are at ease, we are so much better able to digest our food, and the food hits in a certain way where we reach satiation and we can stop eating when we're full, and we can be more mindful because we're in this restful state. I'm sure some of you will have heard about rest and digest, and that's a state of being. And so there's a difference between indulging at Christmas and enjoying it and it being part of the plan versus emotional eating. And emotional eating that's where it becomes a little bit of a danger zone, okay? Because we're stressed or we're upset or we're anxious or we're overwhelmed or we're just a bit sad, which I hope none of you will be over Christmas. And again, please reach out and come and join us in the Thriving Women community. If any of those emotions relate to you and you think that's me, like I'm looking around me and everybody else is happy and thriving and I'm just not in that place, come and join us inside of Thriving Women. That's what we've built it for. Like you are not meant to do this journey alone, ladies. We're just not. We're meant to be together as women. We're meant to be together supporting each other, but somewhere along the lines, there's just been what's the analogy? Like a chink in a chain or something. There's been a disconnect, and we got to this point, didn't we, where it all got very competitive as women and we're all trying to show up in a certain way, but then beneath the surface we're struggling. Don't struggle alone. Do not struggle alone. Come and join us inside of Thriving Women. You're not meant to do this alone, and that is part of the struggle. But understanding the difference between emotional eating and indulging as part of the plan, I suppose, the state in which your body is internally will differ. And so the rate at which weight increases, how you feel about your body the next day, whether you're willing to plug in those, other reminders when it's the self-talk or the self-care or the getting out and getting the exercise or the just being able to be comfortable with those fluctuations on the scales, like it matters. It matters based on our state. So I'm going to wrap this up for this week. We have got another episode before the year is out, but those are just your very top line reminders. I'm not going to go through how to eat and drink specifically, ladies. We know as grown women that if we overeat and we fill our faces full of junk, then we're not going to feel the best as a byproduct. So follow the rule of thumb. We stop eating when we're full. We manage our boundaries. We manage our energy. Plug in some of those reminders that I've just given to you on the podcast. And most importantly, enjoy it. Please, please enjoy it. If you've spent this year so far working hard on your mental health, physical health, emotional well-being, and you really struggle to switch off and take it in at Christmas, then take it back to gratitude, take it back to your reason why, take it back to what your bigger values are, and allow yourself to enjoy this most wonderful time of the year. And I will look forward to catching up with you all on the next episode of the Nicola Graham podcast.